Hello, everyone. Welcome. I am Rachel, Community Manager at Alloy Women's Health. We are a telehealth company bringing science-backed, evidence-based menopause hormonal solutions direct to your door. Before I introduce our fantastic guest, I want to let people know that this webinar will be shared on our YouTube channel in another day or so, and that you may enjoy $20 off today any purchase on myalloy.com. using today's code JOY20, JOY20. Welcome, Dr. Laurie Mintz. She's an author, therapist, professor, and speaker whose life work has been committed to helping people live more authentic, meaningful, joyful, and sexually satisfying lives. As an Emeritus Professor at University of Florida, she teaches the psychology of human sexuality to hundreds of undergraduate students each year. Dr. Mintz has published over 50 research articles in academic journals and 6 chapters in academic books. And in 2023, she was named one of Forbes 50 over 50 women innovators. She is the author of 2 books, Becoming Clitoris, Why Orgasm Equality Matters and How to Get It, and A Tired Woman's Guide to Passionate Sex. I have both of them. As you can see, they're fantastic books. You should get them. I highly recommend them. With this same goal of providing scientifically accurate, sex-positive information to enhance female pleasure, Dr. Mintz gives presentations and workshops to professionals and lay audiences, including a TED Talk with over 2 million views. For over 30 years, Dr. Mintz has also maintained a private practice working with both individuals and couples on general and sexual issues. One of her greatest honors is supporting her clients during difficult times, as well as helping them make positive changes and reach life goals. Welcome again, Dr. Mintz, to the Alloy community. I have to tell you, we've had occasion to speak before, but we actually had an opportunity to meet not too long ago at the Swell event. And on top of how excited I was, we had this moment sort of later in the afternoon. I was in the restroom and you came in the restroom, and there was a young woman in there, and I was in the stall and I overheard this conversation, and she was just so full of reverence for you, and you had really kind of pivoted her career choice, and she was going to be following a career now in sex therapy. And it was just really, really nice to hear. And I thought to myself, how cool, first of all, for you to get that recognition from somebody you'd never met before, but also that, she was a young woman and hopefully is enjoying a wonderful, satisfying, healthy sex life, and will be able now to help others of any age do the same. So welcome. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
So glad you are here among us.
I'm so glad and honored to be here. Yeah, it's really exciting to be able to talk to you about all of this important, important material. Yeah.
So important. So to kind of like lay the groundwork for us. And I want to let you know also, and everyone listening, you can drop any questions for Dr. Mintz in the Q&A. I will get to them. We have several questions that came in to me privately, and I'll get to those as well. But just to sort of put us on a level playing field, would you share with us your vulva pillow and give us a little bit of a quick anatomy rundown and let us know why it matters that we know?
So it's so important, first of all, to know your own genital anatomy, because if you don't know what you have, which many of us don't, it's really hard to know how to get full enjoyment out of it, or to tell a partner how to do so, how to pleasure you. And, when, men pee, like they hold their penis, they have familiarity. It takes us concerted effort to learn our genitals. So hopefully me and my vulva puppet will help with that.
Yes.
So this is my vulva puppet. And let me just go over the parts. And as I do, I'm going to refer to what parts in the penis they're analogous to. And the reason I'm doing this is so many of us are more familiar with the penis than the vulva. So
Okay.
the external part of the female genital is not called the vagina, it's called the vulva. And it has many distinct parts. It has the outer lips, and they simply protect what's inside, and they're analogous to the sac that protects the balls on a penis. Okay, now opening this up and seeing, you'll see these are the inner lips, and they are hairless. They're chock full of touch sensitive nerve endings and erectile tissue. We have erectile tissue. And it's really common for one, even though they're called inner lips, it's common for one to be bigger than the other to stick out of the outer lips, completely normal. In fact, inner lips are what give vulvas their personality, and they're all unique. They're like snowflakes. Not one is alike, even identical twins, and it's often the inner lips. And they are analogous to the shaft of the penis. They're really sensitive. They're an underrated sexual organ, actually. We don't pay enough attention to them often. If you follow the inner lips up, they form the clitoral hood, which is analogous to the foreskin on a penis if it's not removed, which many are for circumcision purposes. Also very, very, very sensitive. If you under the hood, and some are more exposed than others, is the clitoral glands. And that is analogous to the tip of the penis, the head of the penis. It has over 10,000 touch sensitive nerve endings in the size of about an eraser tip. So, ouch. Many of us go, that's too sensitive to touch directly. And stimulated in other ways, like through the hood or through cloth or panties. Up here is called the mons pubis, and it's where your pubic hair is. It's a mound of fatty tissue. And why that's important is the clitoris is actually the tip, the glands in the hood is the only part you can see, but it's a vast internal organ full of touch sensitive nerve endings and erectile tissue. And the legs of the clitoris run through here, which is why a lot of times women will push their hand here and it'll feel good as they rub up and down. There's also our vaginal canal, and that is where babies can come out, penises can go in. And what's really interesting is the opening of the vagina and the first third are also full of touch sensitive nerve endings, but the inner 2/3 has no touch sensitive nerve endings, which is why you can wear premenopause, before menopause, when you had a period, you could wear a tampon without feeling it because there's no touch sensitive nerve endings, but those pressure sensitive nerve endings are why, when aroused, sometimes a thicker object feels good. So that is a quick anatomy lesson.
Thank you for that. I really appreciate that. I think, um, it's helpful to know what's helpful to our having a satisfactory sex life. One of the questions I got, and I'll just get right into it, when I shared that we were going to be speaking, was from somebody who said that she didn't like the way her vagina looked and her vulva looked, and she did say, I don't like the way my vagina looks, but I know what she meant. And this is a big thing for people. Another question that came in, if you want to just get right into it, was about sort of not liking the way she looked at all. Sort of her entire physicality, she felt, had changed and was unsatisfying for her and potentially unsatisfying to her partner she was concerned about. And it got me thinking about sort of the broader messaging, the culture, the things that women sort of understand, process, have learned, have been taught. And I wonder if you can kind of get into that now.
So for that person, first of all, I am really sorry for your pain, because feeling like you don't like how your vulva looks, or your body looks, or your face, whatever, that's painful. And hopefully some things I can say can point you in a direction of more self-love. So first of all, there's been an upsurge in people saying, I don't like the way this looks. And the reason I believe is we are not exposed to how real vulvas look. They are all different and they are all unique. But what we see in porn is, if you watch porn, much like men are chosen for having larger than average penises, women are chosen for having even and petite inner lips, and some have had surgery. And so and there's memes on the internet saying things about vulvas, but the truth of the matter is they are all unique and beautiful. And you have my book there, Rachel. I
Mm-hmm.
don't remember there's a vulva panel in there in the anatomy chapter. I don't know if you
Okay.
can hold it up, if you can find it while
I don't know if everyone can
Yes.
see it.
And the point, yes, that is it exactly. If you hold it up a little higher to your camera, I think.
Page 66.
Yes. So that is real vulvas. They are all unique. They are all beautiful, but we've been duped into thinking they're not pretty or they're smelly. And in fact, they have a natural odor that attracts partners. We shouldn't use scented pads or douches. So I often tell clients, look at like vulva panels of like the one in my book, and there's sources for that, the Great Wall of Vaginas, vulva diversity online, and you'll probably see that yours is it's beautiful and it's the same. It's just different than others, but don't look at porn images for that. And then in terms of body image stuff in general, like our bodies do change as we age. Let me go back to vulvas. I can
Sure.
tell you that this is what my vulva looks like.
Okay.
I mean, I have an inner lip that is so big and it sticks out. It never concerned me because I wasn't raised in the era of porn, and so many women don't know that's normal. So I just want to really begin to love your vulva.
Thank you for that.
And body image is hard, but I suggest you could see a therapist who specializes in that love your body for what it can do versus what it looks like. And one thing I would recommend is yoga. I know that might sound a little strange, but we know that yoga teaches us body awareness and mindfulness, and a lot of times learning to be in your body, mindfully present, instead of thinking how it looks like,
Right.
can be really helpful.
I want to ask you about that later. That's a great point that you revisit a lot, is mindfulness, and also sort of like returning, being out of your not being in your head. And
Right.
we can talk about that later. I had a question I wanted to sort of have you expand on, which is um, the lack of conversation around female pleasure. And if I could also just read you this question that somebody, because I think it works in tandem. How do we get more women to understand the importance of conversations about sex like this one? How do we draw women out of an ickiness or shame so that we can overcome these obstacles that you're talking about? My heart is exploding. That was very sweet. She said, I'm
Oh,
so grateful for this conversation.
I'm so grateful for it too. And I think that is a great question. I think it's, that our pleasure has been so ignored or minimized or even vilified, right? So think about like this, the language we use. We use the words sex and intercourse as if they were one and the same. We use the word foreplay. It's just the lead up to the main event. And that's so deeply ingrained sexism, right? Because foreplay is the act during which most women orgasm. Intercourse is the act which most men do. If the tables were turned, we would call foreplay sex and intercourse postplay. We also call our entire genitals a vagina, which is the part that's most sexually useful to men, not women, right? And the vulva, we're linguistically erasing our own pleasure. So how do we change this? If I had the answer to that, I would be screaming it from the rooftops. But I think it's conversations like this and just talking to your friends, attending sex positive events, attending webinars, reading books, maybe starting a discussion group with friends. I know there's book clubs that are reading sex positive literature out there for women, but I think we just have to start talking about it and getting past that shame, because there is nothing shameful about sexual pleasure. The World Health Organization says it's a fundamental human right, in fact.
Interesting. Can you talk a little bit more about, you just said intercourse is not sex. Can you expand on that?
Well, what I mean is we use the word sex and intercourse as if it's one and the same. We prioritize it, right? But
Hmm.
only 4 to 18% of women orgasm from penetration alone without additional clitoral stimulation, using a vibrator during intercourse, using your hand during intercourse, using your partner's hand, your partner holding a vibrator, an intercourse position that, gets your body on your clitoris rubbing against a part. Only 4 to 18% of women orgasm from penetration alone. I'm not saying penetration isn't pleasurable, although it is very painful for some women, especially if you're not I mean, I know that's a whole different topic, but if you're not on the right hormones, after menopause, or if you're not lubricating, if you're not using lubrication from the, store bought. So the bottom line is we are prioritizing a sex act that isn't the one that gives most women the experience of having an orgasm. It's oral sex, manual sex, the combination, and here's something really, I mean, I could talk about this for hours, so I'll just say one more thing. Less than 2% of women masturbate by putting something inside their vagina. Less than 2% exclusively. The rest use external or external along with internal for masturbation. Yet there's this disconnect. If that's how we pleasure ourselves, that's also how we should get pleasure with partners, because the most essential step to pleasure with a partner is getting the same type of stimulation that you get alone.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Can you expand a bit on clitoral versus vaginal orgasm? You sort of touched on it a little bit, but if you would go on just a bit.
So this different type of orgasm thing started a long time ago. It started with Freud. Just give me a minute for a history lesson, right?
Please.
It's so terrible. Freud started all this when he said that when we mature, we will transfer our sexual sensation from our clitoris to our vagina. We don't
Interesting.
transfer anything as we age. That's like saying, well, as you age, you'll, instead of smelling out of your nose, you'll start smelling out of your ears. Like,
Right.
yeah, biologically doesn't happen. And he said women who didn't do that were immature, which is also really crazy, because the clitoris, not the vagina, is analogous to the penis. Okay. The clitoris is women's main organ for pleasure. So, so we have this dichotomy. We say, oh, vaginal orgasms, clitoral orgasm. And basically, there's still debate in the scientific community if they are different types of orgasms. And I can get into that if you want. But what I dislike a lot is that we've set up this dichotomy and say one is the ideal. Like I've heard people say, oh, you can orgasm vaginally, how lucky you are. Instead of every woman, however you orgasm, is
Right.
completely fine. It doesn't matter where the stimulation is. Could be your clitoris, could be your breast, could be your vagina. Think about this. We don't we don't talk about men's orgasms this way. We don't say, "Oh, did you have a blowjob orgasm or a hand job orgasm?" We
Right.
don't name the type of stimulation that gets them there. We just say an orgasm.
Interesting. Thank you for that. I feel compelled as I'm listening to you and I have the conversations that I have so often, and this isn't necessarily something you're talking about, but I do want to encourage people just for a second to, if you are not using vaginal estrogen and you are having painful sex, or the tissue in your vulva, your vagina is irritated, if you are having trouble with bladder issues, please, please, please head over to our website, use the code today if you haven't tried a product yet, and or use the code today if you have, and please take care of that tissue of your vulva, your vagina. It matters for so many reasons, but it certainly matters to your having a physically satisfying sex life.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Oh, I could not agree more. As the best way I ever heard it explained was my gynecologist who said, we outlive our uteruses today, which
Mm,
means that we live at beyond when we're getting the estrogen we need, and we need that estrogen for supple tissue, for skin health, for bone health, for bladder health. I will self-disclose, I am on everything. Is that okay if I self-disclose?
please do. Let's
Okay.
hear it.
I'm on a whole thing, and I'm on vaginally inserted estrogen twice a week. Okay.
Hmm.
I use the pill. I forget what it's
Hmm.
called. It's like a little pill you insert. I used
Right?
to,
Like a suppository.
yes. Okay.
Hmm.
Additionally, I am on systemic estrogen,
Hmm.
which I don't have a cancer gene, but that whole study a long ago that, oh,
Yes.
it causes cancer,
WHI. Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
is not accurate.
Hmm.
Okay. That data
Hmm.
has killed women. Okay.
Hmm.
So I'm on a product called Eva Mist, which I
Hmm.
believe you did
We
a,
have that. Yes.
yes, I
Yes.
love it. Little spray.
Yes.
Okay. I'm also, and it's FDA approved, and I use
Hmm.
that every night.
And it's
I'm
fantastic.
also on progesterone, a pill,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
if you have a uterus, you cannot have estrogen without progesterone. And by the way, that pill helps you sleep too.
Yes.
Progesterone.
Absolutely saved my sleep life. Hmm.
Yes. So, and I am on off-label transdermal testosterone. I have to get my
Okay.
checked to make sure they're okay. And
Hmm.
I mean, I threw the book at myself, and I'm
I'm
telling.
so glad.
And I once a week, I also use Reverie, which is over the counter hyaluronic acid. So on
Mhm.
every night, the progesterone pill, the Eva Mist, the transdermal testosterone, Monday and Friday, the vaginal estrogen, and Wednesday, I use a Reverie, which is hyaluronic acid. And I still need to use lubricant during penetrative.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. I was going to ask you about that. Let's segue into lube and let people know about it, why it matters, on and on.
Okay. Lube is okay. Shame is sex's enemy. Mindfulness, lube, vibrators, and communication are sex's best friend. I love to say masturbate, lubricate, vibrate, meditate. Okay, so let's talk about the lube part. Are we, there's a myth that if we're aroused, we'll be wet, or
Yeah.
if we're wet, that means we feel aroused. That's not true. We have something called arousal non-concordance between our brain and our genitals sometimes. So just because you're wet doesn't mean you're aroused. Just because you're aroused, it doesn't mean you're wet. And even with all the hormone replacement, a lot of times women post menopause still don't produce enough natural lubricant. And in fact, a lot of younger women don't either.
Right.
So store-bought lube is really, really good because you can put it on the outside of the vulva, put it a little bit on the penis, or you can take, I like to tell women to take a little medicine syringe and put a little on the inside before penetrative activities. Because if you have penetrative intercourse before you're without that lubrication, it's going to rub, it's going to hurt. So
Okay.
I also find I have a lot of clients who start, you know how we develop an association in our mind, like, ooh, I see a donut. I like donuts. My mouth waters, right?
Pavlovian,
Yes, thank
that
you.
kind of thing. Hmm.
I have a lot of women who say just the act of putting on the lubricant gets them aroused because, oh, wet? I'm wet. Oh, aroused. So really, I really recommend for penetrative activities a really good silicone lube or a hybrid lube, which has water and silicone, because the silicone's longer lasting.
Okay, thank you for that. I saw, I think, a couple of questions about vaginal estrogen being a risk to your partner. The answer is no, but I also know that it's it's you don't necessarily want to use vaginal estrogen the same night that
Right.
you are having penetrative sex.
Right. So that's exactly right. And it's that gets into a whole thing that I really recommend for women who feel they have low desire, especially, which like 90% of us do, right? That you schedule sex. You have planned sexual encounters. It sounds unromantic, but they're really, really great. And you can prepare your mind, you can get mindful, it's time for sex that week. It takes away the tension. And I call them trysts. And if you do that, that really, when you're going to have a sexual encounter and it's not the night you're going to use your vaginal estrogen. I'll self-disclose because I think it's really important we just be open, right? My
Absolutely.
my trysts are on Sunday at 4 o'clock. Okay.
You have a scheduled time
Mhm.
weekly.
Weekly.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I take my vaginal estrogen on Monday and Friday.
Okay. Okay. So your vagina is prepared, everything is happy and feeling good, and
Yes.
Sunday is your scheduled
Yes.
night. Um, there's so much good stuff here and there's so much to get into and really good questions are coming in. First of all, I just want to return. You said there were four things you ticked off, and the last one was communication. Can you repeat what that four?
Yeah. Masturbate, lubricate, vibrate, communicate. Of course, you should always don't forget to hydrate, but
Thank
that's
you.
not
Thank
part
you
of
for
the
that.
rhyme. And
Thank you for
neither
that.
is fornicate.
Thank you so much. That's so helpful. Okay, we've talked about vibrator usage, which you are think is a great idea.
Yeah, we know the science is so clear. Women who
Mhm.
use vibrators have easier and more frequent orgasms. A man's acceptance of his partner's vibrator use is related to her satisfaction. And I can, if you want me to, I can dispel vibrator myths. They don't, down the line if we
Please.
have time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. No, no,
yeah.
go ahead. Go have at it.
They're not addictive. I mean, carpenters don't get addicted to power tools. They just
Right.
job done faster.
Right.
And that vibrators provide a type of stimulation that tongues, hands, penises can't. And the reason they work so well is we have special corpuscles on our vulva that respond just to vibration. The penis has them too. And so they really it's a biological reason. They have so much empirical support that there's some articles in medical journals calling them medical devices. They have that much support. Also, they don't replace partners. I have a drawer full and none of them say, I love you. None of them kiss.
Mhm.
None of them make
Right.
me laugh. None of them get on my nerves sometime either, but
Right.
they do not replace partners. And here's the thing. Think about if you were in the swimming pool with your partner and there was a raft there and you were jumping on the raft, off the raft, kissing. You wouldn't call your friend after and go, "Oh, me and my raft had the best day together. Oh, my boyfriend or my husband, my
Right.
girlfriend was there too." You wouldn't even mention the raft. It's just a tool to enhance the experience. And the same is true for vibrators. They also do not desensitize your clit. When people say that, that what they're meaning is, "Will I always need one?" My answer
Hmm.
is, so what if you do?
Right.
We don't tell men, don't get used to intercourse, don't get used to blowjobs or hand jobs. If it works for you, enjoy it, bring it along, and make it a tool to enhance your experience.
Dr. Mintz, you're making me think about something you say often. You talk about equal opportunity orgasm. Can you talk about that and tell us what you mean about that?
Yeah, we know there's an orgasm gap with men having more than women. It's biggest in casual sex, smallest in subsequent, sex, and smallest in relationship sex, but it never closes altogether except in one circumstance. And that's if women get the external stimulation they need either before or during intercourse. We know women who receive manual and oral stimulation and vibrator stimulation prior to intercourse and who touch themselves with the vibrator or hands during intercourse are more orgasmic. And those are more likely to occur in the context of a relationship. But by equal opportunity orgasms, people say, "Oh, women's orgasms are difficult or elusive. That's why we're having less." No, because when women masturbate, 95% reach orgasm easily and within minutes. We know how to do it alone. It's not our bodies, it's the way that we're doing heterosexual sex that's the
Okay.
problem.
Okay. Thank you. Somebody asked me for you. She said that she feels weird, embarrassed, and kind of dumb using a vibrator. And she realizes she may never have an orgasm without one. What can I do to just get over it?
Weird and dumb with a partner, maybe, is
I
like
don't know.
what I'm picking up, and I don't know if it's right or wrong, is that this is a person who pleasures themselves with it because she can't have one without it, but feels weird or dumb with a partner. That's what I'm
Okay.
guessing.
Okay.
Um, and I guess what I want to say is, um, oof, there is nothing weird about it. The vast majority of women, the research shows, have used one. Most women are more orgasmic. Like the research shows, they're more orgasmic. Doctors are starting to prescribe them as tools. So what I want to say to you is, if you had, I don't know, diabetes, would you feel dumb taking your insulin? No, because you
Right.
need it. This is something you need to orgasm, and there is nothing, nothing, nothing wrong with it. The overwhelming majority of women, especially as we age, need more specific, targeted stimulation, and it's often the type that a vibrator can provide.
Thank you. I'm going to look at our questions now for you. Can Dr. Mintz give suggestions for how to speak with your partner about improving your sex life? I find even with a caring partner, sorry, it jumped. This is a very hard thing to bring up.
Yeah, it is because we're not used to talking about sex. And
Mhm.
this is the very reason I have two full chapters in both my books on communication. And some of them, one of them even gives like scripts. But let me break down a few things. First of all, I generally, people who have the conversation say they're glad they did, because we can't, and the research is also really clear. So this is like the pep talk part. Like, you cannot solve a problem without talking about it. And the research is really clear that couples who talk about sex have better sex. So here's a kind of script. Meta communication, which is a great skill. It's communicating about communicating, followed by I statements. And do it at a time outside of the bedroom when you know you have time. So here's the meta communication. I want to talk to you about something that's scary for me. It's really hard for me to bring this up, but I'm doing it because I want us to be the best we can be. That kind of thing is really good because it kind of calms the other person down, calms you down, gives them sort of the way to, okay, this is going to be important. I got to listen. And you can say something like, I went to this webinar and they were talking about scientifically supported ways to enhance sexual pleasure. This is just an example. And I learned that women who use vibrators have better, easier orgasms. And in fact, men like that too, which I forgot to tell you about because you'll get vicarious vibes. And so I got really interested in that. So I would like to bring my vibrator to our encounters. So meta communication followed by an I statement. What's your reaction to that? And then a curious question. So, and just really taking the risk. I promise you, it is so much easier to learn to talk about sex than it is to continue to have less than satisfying sex. It's
Thank
just
you.
jump off that diving board, plunge into the water, and give it a try.
And go for it.
Yeah.
Here's another question that I have for you. So sorry. I'm loving this conversation. Thank you. My current partner is experienced sexually and he performed oral sex last time. I felt pleasure, but not to the level that I think I should. Is this normal? I would like to experience the full spectrum of pleasure. How can I? Also, I seem to get a UTI almost every time after sex. How can I prevent that?
Okay. So, first of all, thanks for asking that. And thanks for the compliment on the conversation. I'm going to call that word should out because whenever I hear the word should coupled with sex, I want to say don't should on yourself. Okay. There are no shoulds when it comes to sex. Not all women love oral sex. Not all women orgasm from oral sex. Some, just like you, they get aroused, but it doesn't push them over the edge. So, if it is a matter of relaxation, like you're in your head, oh my gosh, am I taking too long? Do I look okay? Do I smell okay? That might be interfering with your pleasure. And then mindfulness is the key. However, if it's simply just the way your body is, don't should on yourself. Get the type of stimulation you need, experiment, hands, vibrators, more oral sex, etc. Did I miss it? I think I missed a part of the question.
Well, there was a piece about getting a UTI
Oh,
almost every time
right.
after sex.
So I would want to know if that person is on hormone replacement therapy
Yeah,
because lack of, and I'm not a physician, so I'm not
sure.
allowed to give medical advice, but I've gone to enough medical conferences to say that the decreased estrogen puts you at risk for UTI. So
Sure.
I would talk to one of the doctors at Alloy about that. That is a medical
Thank you
question.
for that.
Yeah.
And I would also add that if vaginal estrogen is not in your repertoire yet, it should be. Somebody asked, can you ask Dr. Mintz to talk more about how to improve decreasing desire? And
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly, she didn't sort of expand on that, but it was all of that.
So most women, as we age and as our relationships age, we feel less horny.
Mhm.
And that is and we also feel less horny when we're stressed and when
Yeah.
we're constant caretaking. And there's some biochemical reasons for that. So how do you increase desire? The first thing is to know there's two types of desire. There's the kind that most women say they miss, which is feeling spontaneously horny. But there's a second type of desire called responsive desire, which is, oh, I'm interested in sex, but I'm not horny. And that's why we often suggest planned sexual encounters because in that way, the desire, the horniness follows the touch. So I tell people, don't wait to be horny to have sex to get horny. It's like in a winter climate, it's like scraping off the ice and starting your car. So first of all, know that decreased horniness is normal, but you might have responsive desire, which can lead you to being horny. Also, we do know from the research that reading or watching or listening to erotica is arousing and creates desire. And now some people do not want to do that because they think that all erotica is like degrading to women. And much of it is. I mean, I can't lie about that, right? But there's more and more erotica out there, especially like audio
Right.
erotica or written
Mhm.
erotica that's written from a female perspective. So you might want to try that. Also, again, speak to the physicians at Alloy, because the ISWICH, which is the International Society for the Study of Women's Sexual Health, they're the kind of the main organization for women's sexual health. They say that the standard of care for decreased desire, especially during menopause, is both FDA approved and off label medications coupled with counseling. And those, so the meds we've been talking about. Also, if you're having painful sex, you're not going to desire it. And counseling, do you need counseling? You're probably getting all of the information that you would get from a sex therapist here, but if you want a deeper dive, then I would suggest that. There's also books that will help you with desire. My book, A Tired Woman's Guide to Passionate Sex. There's a great new book by Jennifer Wenzel and Lauren Fogel called Desire. That is just chock full of great information. So get the information and get the meds and allow yourself to use responsive desire.
Thank you so much. You're so fabulous. Okay. Just quickly, while I sort of dig through another question, someone did ask a recommendation for a safe silicone water-based lube.
Okay, so in terms of strictly water-based lube, I like Lilo's personal moisturizer. And in terms of a straight up silicone lube, my personal favorite is Uber Lube. But there's a lot of good lubes out there. And one great site is A Woman's Touch. That it's really for there's a lot of resources for menopausal women. And they have a list of a lot of safe lubes and what ingredients to avoid, etc. I don't know
Great,
if
thank you.
does Alloy sell lube or not?
We stick in the vaginal estrogen
Okay.
hormones, systemic and so on. No, but stay
Okay.
tuned. Somebody asked if any suggestions for how to tell our daughters to prioritize their own pleasure. I've heard young men these days are so influenced by porn.
Yeah, I think that's so important to have that conversation, to say to your daughters, and I have two, they're adults now. And yeah, I'm thinking, oh, I wonder if they're gonna listen to this webinar. They might not want to know Sunday night's my night, but here goes. Now my daughter's gonna be like, why don't you? Now she's gonna say, I know why you don't have dinner
Now I know.
with me Sunday night when I
I
ask.
know
I'm
why
like,
you're
no,
not
how about
available.
Friday? Um,
Yes.
so I think it's just really important to sit your daughter down and to say to them, look, like your pleasure is important. And most young men don't know about how to pleasure you because all they know is what they've seen in porn, which is that women orgasm from hard and long intercourse, which is not accurate of how you're going to get pleasure. And in fact, that can cause pain. So you are responsible for knowing your own body and to ask to communicate for the pleasure that you need. And this is really important. And then you can give them some reading material. Teen Vogue has some amazing articles. There's a book called I Love Female Orgasm that's really good for young women. My book, Becoming Clitorate. And, tell them, here's some stuff to read and ask me any questions you want, because sex is supposed to be pleasurable for both people. And I want you to have that pleasure.
Thank you for that. I want to make sure I get to something really important that you talk about a lot, before I go on to any other questions. You talk about faking it and the problem with faking it. Can you share with us why that is
So by
an
faking, you're
issue?
reinforcing bad behavior. For those of you who have children, it would be like if your 3-year-old had a tantrum and you're like, "Good job, good
Mhm, mhm,
job." They're gonna keep
mhm,
having tantrums, right? So it's the same with faking orgasm. You are reinforcing your partner doing exactly what doesn't work for you.
mhm. Thank
And
you.
that doesn't
Go
help,
ahead.
especially your own pleasure.
Great. Thank you. I wanna, also just circle back to something we do have, which is Amazing, which is a product that helps stimulates blood flow to the clitoris and is very helpful to more pleasurable sex. So if you haven't used your coupon yet, please, please do. Um, let's see. Another question is, any suggestions for the opposite problem, too much lubrication?
Yeah, a towel, like, try to absorb some of the lubrication with a towel. Certainly don't add store-bought lube. Um, and if I'm not sure why it's a problem, I'd want to talk to the person individually. If it's embarrassment, so what? You're lubed. It's good. If it's that your partner's not getting enough pleasure because they feel like it's too slippery, maybe talk, if you're on hormone replacement, talk to your doctor about changing the formula. Um, that kind of thing. I've heard a long time ago, someone talk about, like, kind of getting, like, I don't even want to say it because it was so long ago, but I remember someone saying, like, I don't remember what they used internally that was body safe to absorb some of the lubrication before penetrative sex. I'd have to dig back in my files,
Sure.
but you might want to Google that.
Okay. Someone says, red becoming clitoris. I am part of the percentage of women who has never had an orgasm, solo or partnered. Takes me a long time to get close. And if I get close, it either goes away or feels so intense I have to stop. What can I do?
So thank you for reading it. And it sounds like the techniques in there did not help you. So the thing that I would recommend is to make sure something medical is not going on. There is a physician, I don't know where you live, but Dr. Rachel Rubin
Yeah,
is
we spoke to
in,
her.
she's in the DC area. And what she's discovered is that a lot of women who are having trouble with orgasming and having some of the problems you're describing and pain have something called clitoral adhesions, where the clitoris is attached to the hood. And she has an in-office procedure to remove them, very painless, and it increases orgasm function. Now, most gynecologists, they don't even examine the outside. It's terrible. They only look in
Mm,
the vaginal canal. So I would want to make sure to rule out a medical cause for you. And then if that's ruled out, then I would want to say, what's going on in your head? Are you being mindful? Are you present? Are you anxious? If not, really practice mindfulness out of the bedroom, apply it to the bedroom. I would try different types of toys. There's so many types. There's the traditional vibrator, right? There's the pinpointed ones. There's also ones that use like air pulse, like the Lilo Sona Cruise, or the womanizer to stimulate blood flow to the clitoris. So I would just, first rule out medical, and then, try mindfulness, try different vibrators, etc. And the other thing you could do, if all this fails, a sex therapist can't watch you masturbate and help you, but there are actually orgasm coaches that can do that. And I once worked with a client who, very similar, like nothing was working. And I said, stop wasting your money on me. Go see Betty Dotson in New York. She's now passed away. And was an orgasm coach, but her partner still does this, where someone can actually watch you masturbate. And, see, with my client, what was happening is she was anxious. And at the moment before orgasm, it turned out she was tightening her whole body. Like, obviously, I had no way of knowing that, right?
Right, right.
I'd say first a doctor, check out that, then all those other things that you read about in Becoming Clitorate, different vibrators, lubes, devices, and then in worst case, a sex therapist, and then not worst case, but next step, a sex
Sure.
orgasm coach.
I had no idea there were orgasm coaches. This next question I just wanted to highlight because I think it springboards from what you just spoke about. Is it true that if you haven't had an orgasm by the time you reach perimenopause, menopause, you never will?
I've never heard that. So no, I'm going to say it's not true. It's never too late to learn
Absolutely.
and never too late. I mean, and in fact, a lot of times women can say their sex life increases once in perimenopause and menopause, once they're comfortable with their body, etc. So no, it's definitely not too late. And in fact, I'm feeling excited for you to experience this at this stage of your life.
Um, Finally, and you sort of wove this through our conversation over this hour, but someone asked, how can I comfortably educate my husband about my clitoris? What should I tell him or show him? It's uncomfortable for us, a little embarrassing. We feel like school children, but he really wants to get it right.
Well, lovely that he wants to get it right. And of course you're embarrassed, right? Because our culture set you up to be embarrassed.
Mm,
It's not your fault that you're embarrassed. I mean, your whole life up to now led you to that because our culture tells you to be. So you've got a lot going for you, that you want to talk about it and that your partner wants to hear about it. So I would have one of those out of the bedroom conversations. Like, I want to talk about something. I'm scared and embarrassed. It's hard, but I love you. I want our sex life to be the best it can. And I went to this webinar and they were talking all about clitoral stimulation, how most women need it to have an orgasm. I want us to learn more about this. And there's 3 resources that I would recommend to do so. One is called omgyes.com. And it has 3, it was a study, a project between Kinsey Institute and some folks, and they have season 1 and is all about clitoral stimulation. And I have couples watch the videos together. They show techniques. It's really quite amazing. And also there's research that couples who watch that have more orgasms. The other is Ian Kerner's book, She Comes First. And it's a how-to oral sex manual, but it really does talk a lot about the clitoris. And then, at the risk of sounding self-promotional, my book, Becoming Clitorate, actually has a chapter at the end written just for male partners about clitoral stimulation. And that's a short read. And y'all can read that together, read Ian's book together, watch OMG Yes together.
thank you for that. Dr. Mintz, what would you finally sort of want your students, those of us in perimenopause and menopause, across the ally community, anyone who might come across this conversation, what do you want us to know more than anything?
What I want you to know is that there is a very high correlation between sexual satisfaction and life satisfaction, and between sexual satisfaction and relationship satisfaction. This is not a frivolous conversation. And when sex is going well, we often don't think about it. But when it's not going well, it causes a lot of angst and pain. And what I want you to know is that there is help out there for sexual problems, certified sex therapists, sex medicine physicians, you know, and there are solutions. And the sooner you seek them, the better. And that it is your right to enjoy your sex life. And it's a joyous part of life that you absolutely deserve. And good sex does not need to end at menopause. In fact, there's a book called Magnificent Sex based on a big research study that shows that women can often say their best sex starts at about 50. So that's what I'd want people to know.
Thank you so much. I just adore you, Dr. Laurie Mintz.
I adore you.
I love speaking with you and knowing you and learning from you. Somebody wrote, I just want to thank you both for this wonderfully informative discussion. We all need more of this. We really do need more of this. As you said, that a healthy, happy sex life correlates to a healthy, happy rest of your life. Masturbation, lubrication, vibration, communication, MHT, vaginal estrogen, amazing, toys. Anything I missed?
Did you say meditation too in there?
No, meditation. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for this hour.
Thank you for having me. It was such a delight. It's always a delight to be with you. So thank you for asking me here. And thanks for all the great questions, everyone. I appreciate it.
Fantastic questions. Thank you to everyone who joined us today and asked really thoughtful, I think for many people, maybe vulnerable questions, which is why we need to keep talking in spaces like this. I just want to remind everyone one more time, you can enjoy $20 off any purchase today on myally.com using today's code JOY, J-O-Y 20. Thank you so much, Dr. Mintz.
Thank you.
Well, everyone. Bye, everyone. Take care. Have some great sex.
Yeah.
And Sunday at 4:00. I won't be thinking of you.
Don't call me. I won't answer the phone.
Sorry. Bye, everyone.
Bye.